Hello and welcome into a Friday morning edition of the Arizona State Sun Devils Insider Podcast. My name is Kevin Hicks and I'm your lead beat writer for the Arizona State Sun Devils on SI. And I'm so grateful to be joining you once again today for this edition of the Insider Podcast. Um, Unfortunately, Arizona State's volleyball season ended on Thursday with a loss to the Creighton Blue Jays. Still an absolutely incredible season and nothing but respect for that team. Historic season for JJ Van Neal and um, yeah, nothing but tipping my hats to them. Um, as for the women's basketball front of things, the women's basketball program will look to extend their winning streak to start the season to 12 games on Sunday afternoon at the Oregon State Beavers before going to Gonzaga to play on December 16th on the road to close out the non-conference schedule before Big 12 play opens up. And that leads me into discussing the men's basketball game on Saturday evening. Will be the night of the day of the game by the time this recording releases. Arizona State men's basketball in Las Vegas for a neutral court site game against the Santa Clara Broncos, which have, to those that aren't as in line with the success of the Santa Clara program, they are the program that has pushed Steve Nash into the NBA, Jalen Williams into the NBA, and Brandon Podziemski into the NBA. So they're a pretty solid NBA pipeline, especially for a mid-major. They are coached by Herb Sendek, who is the coincidentally led the Arizona State basketball program before Bobby Hurley took over. Um, they have pretty consistently been a top three team in the West Coast Conference. They are pretty firmly in the third spot behind St. Mary's and Gonzaga, and they haven't made an NCAA tournament in a while. That's the surprising thing with all that talent. Let's go over some other basics. So, the game is set to tip off at 5 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. Uh, it's going to be broadcast on TNT, and in terms of opportunity for what this win means for the Sun Devils. The Broncos are currently ranked number 50 in the net rankings that are updated every single day, and a top 50 win on a neutral court is considered a quad one victory. So Arizona State possibly has the opportunity to earn their first quad one victory of the season after falling to Gonzaga and USC in competitive games for teams that are considered in that range. Oklahoma and Texas are, I believe, in the 65 to 73 range, so they consider those games quad two victories, which is solid. It's solid, but they really need to start getting at least one or two quad one victories to continue to build their tournament case. Santa Clara, we'll see what happens with them, but they just are coming off of a blowout loss to New Mexico, which earlier in the week before the loss to New Mexico, I believe they were somewhere in the 20s, I want to say. So it's still a big opportunity for a win. It's always good to win. You're never going to complain about winning. But the Broncos are going to be a challenge. Like I said, they are coming off of a 27-point loss to the New Mexico Lobos, 98 to 71. I watched some of that game and it wasn't even particularly close at any point of the game. Um, yeah, it and that means that Santa Clara is especially going to have a chip on their shoulder going into this game. They're going to want to make up for the that loss. They're going to want to continue to build their NCAA tournament case. Um, yeah, that's really all about the stakes and the general information of the contest. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Santa Clara roster. So, excuse me. So they are led by 6'4" guard Christian Hammond, who actually went to high school in Arizona at Dream City Christian. Um, Excellent guard. Redshirted, I believe, redshirted the 2024-25 season. So he's a redshirt sophomore, like I said. Didn't really come around as a freshman, but in his junior year, started all 9 games, shooting 50% from the floor, almost 43% from 3-point range, 17 points per game. Just a very, very dynamic, efficient guard, good downhill finisher. Really utilizes his shiftiness to in his craftiness to take advantage of the inside outside game, and he's really their catalyst offensively. I feel like their offense goes as he goes. Um, and he's really the only consistently strong shooter on the team. They shoot 31% from 3-point range as a team. Alan Graves, a forward on the team, a key contributor, does shoot 47% from three, but is on low volume. He takes 1.7 attempts per game. The rest of the team that shoots with volume is sub 35%. So it's a lot like Oklahoma in a way. Arizona State was one of the reasons Arizona State was so successful in the Oklahoma game was because they were able to run Nigel Pack off the line and force other guys to beat them on the offensive side of the ball, and that just didn't work. Their defense, that was the best defensive performance I've seen from Arizona State all season, honestly. And I think this is going to be a lot of the same against Santa Clara because Santa Clara kind of has that two big man, 2 or 3 big man on the floor at a time arrangement. And this team isn't as good, or they're around the same, I guess, roughly as Oklahoma when it comes to rebounding. But you look at the bigs on the roster, and their center only averages 3 rebounds a game. So you have a chance to really assert yourself physically. Masamba Diop, my bad. Um, Pig Johnson, even Marcus Adams Jr. There's a lot of players on Arizona State that can really leverage their strength, their athleticism, their tenacity against this team. And I have a feeling that Bobby Hurley is going to have a great game plan because he's really had pretty great game plans every single game this season. I can't really point to a single game and say, wow, they came into the game with a really bad approach. They were unorganized. Some games they made some fatal mistakes, we know, especially against USC and Gonzaga, but they played admirably in those games. I can't even fault them for losing those games. They played very, very well for the most part in those 2 games. They kept it very competitive, especially Gonzaga. And ultimately, I'm sensing an Arizona State victory. I think they're going to pick up their first quad one victory of the 2025-2026 season. And that prepares them for a date against UCLA on Wednesday, I believe, this coming Wednesday. And UCLA is ranked 47 in net, so they're not much higher than Arizona State. Still another opportunity to pick up a big win, nonetheless. And that's really all I have for today. Thank you so much for tuning in once again to another edition of the Sun Devils Insider podcast. And I will see you once again tomorrow.